All right, guys, welcome back to our first setup of the spring. Now, this is going to be for Friday. This is going to be March 7th, 2024. And yeah, we got another severe event on tap. Um, this is the day 4 outlook, so they updated it last night. And they will continue to update it every day until we get to the event. But yeah, here we go. We got a broad 15% from Texas through most of Louisiana, through southern Mississippi, Alabama, and even a little bit of that Florida panhandle. And this does appear to be an all hazards threat, all hazards meaning hail, damaging wind, and tornadoes. There's a lot of nuances with this event that we'll go over. We're going to go over 3 different models and kind of compare and contrast the 3, see if we can come up with our best estimated solution. But it'll continuously update as the models change, as the days continue to progress, as we get closer to Friday. But depending on how severe the risk looks, I may or may not be chasing. We'll deploy some of our chasers down south if that does deem to be necessary, because there's still a lot of things that need to be ironed out. There's no foreshore significant severe type of event on tap for right now, but there is something that there is enough confidence that the Storm Prediction Center has already issued a 15% on day 4. So, and that's like the event last time that we made a video on, it completely fell apart in the short range. We discontinued videos because there was really no need. We knew it wasn't going to be that much of a major severe event, even though it looked like it about 4 days out like it is now. So as always, this is subject to change. But we're going to go over what we see, and we're going to go over why they have that 15% risk out to help y'all better understand and be a little bit more prepared for the weather that's to come. So welcome to spring in the deep south. Snow is out, severe weather is in. It is officially climatological severe weather season down here in the deep south. So our most active months are usually March through April. So unfortunately, you'll probably be seeing a lot of me in the next couple of months. But I'll do my best to work through it with y'all, and we'll go through it together and forecast to the best of our ability and chase everything we can. So let's go ahead and get into it. All right, welcome to the models. And in this video, we are in short enough range that we can start looking at some of the shorter range models. Still not some of the closer models that we have. We'll be able to get into those about day 3, day 2. But what we do have is one of the first shorter range models called the NAM. It's the North American model, but I will refer to it as the NAM. And this is our first glimpse at possibly what a little bit more clear of a picture might look like. The global models, which is the GFS, and the European, those are good for longer range to give you sort of an idea, but these closer range models do a much better job of giving you a better, closer detail. So we have a run, came out at 6 a.m. this morning, and it goes out just far enough to Friday night, and that's going to be Friday at 6 p.m. So what we're going to do is we're going to compare and contrast. We're going to look at each individual model at this exact time frame just to see what the differences are and explain what those differences could do. So starting here at the North American model, the NAM, a broad positively tilted trough. Now, if you weren't here for the last video, there's 3 different tilts that a trough could have. This little wave, this U we call it, this can be tilted 3 different ways. If it's tilted to the left, that's a positively tilted trough. If it's tilted straight up and down, it is a neutrally tilted trough, and if it's tilted to the right, it's a negatively tilted trough. Positively tilted troughs are a lot less favorable because in the lower levels of the atmosphere, you don't get as strong as a low-level return. Neutral and negatively tilted are more tend to what we want to see because they promote much greater lift in the exit region of the trough, which is over here. They create better lift. They create better low-level and deep layer shear. And with that low-level moisture advection, you get a much warmer and moister environment for the storms to work with. Now we're dealing with the positively tilted trough, but there's some nuances to this that have become apparent of late that might overcompensate for this being a positively tilted trough. So as you can see, if I was to draw the base of this trough, it would be positively tilted, pointed to the left. Right here's your U, pointed to the left. Now you can see the maxima of this little short wave that's kind of more neutrally tilted. If you draw the U like this and line that up with the stronger belt of flow, you do get a little bit more of a neutrally tilted exit region. If we go and look at the GFS model, it's a lot less condensed. You don't get as strong of that shortwave rounding the base. And this in the European is kind of similar. You do get a neutrally tilted, but not nearly as compact of a shortwave trough rounding the base. You can really tell because if you see the wind barbs, they're all more in the same direction, meridional flow, just from straight southwest to northeast. But if we go over to the NAM, you can see a lot more divergence, or when the wind barbs are spreading apart, and that's evidence of a more compact to neutrally tilted shortwave that's working its way through. So, the NAM is without a doubt the much more aggressive run as of right now, showing this little more compact belt of flow with good divergence heading into the region that we are looking out to. And keep in mind, you got to remember that the severe weather risk is set up to be somewhere around here on Friday. That's our severe weather risk, so keep that in mind as we look through these models. But with the GFS solution, it is a lot less organized. You don't see as much of that dip and that compact. You don't even have that stronger belt of flow. This is a much weaker solution that would promote a lot less odds of severe weather or significant severe weather. And the European model is much of the same, but you do still get a little bit of that vorticity maxima as that short wave comes through. You do get a little more slightly enhanced flow rounding the base of it. So the NAM and the Euro are a little bit closer together, as you can, if you were to draw that maxima of that short wave, it'd be right over the Texas Panhandle. And you go over to the NAM, and that's exactly where it is. So I would tend to not buy the GFS solution as much as the Euro and NAM. But the NAM is definitely with that big, strong maxima, tilting that with that divergence. This is definitely the more aggressive solution for significant severe weather. So we will, going forward, we will assume the European and the NAM are a lot closer together. So we'll disregard the GFS as of this point. Alright, working our way down from the 500 millibar level, we're going to work our way down to the 700 millibar level, and just taking a look at how the mid-level flow is acting. Now, here on the NAM, we have a slightly more compact surface low that you can see the upper level low attempts to consolidate a little bit better. Still not very tight and wound like we'd like to see, but you do get that flow rounding the base. Now, I don't see any embedded little tiny short waves that would help aid in lift. However, this is a good bit of flow, and it will help the overall bulk shear for this event. So storms will be able to, if they are able to fire and sustain, they will be able to rotate, which will promote the upper level hail growth into supercells. Hail, possibly tornadoes, are more on the table with this type of flow regime, because you need that shear to be in every layer of the atmosphere. You need it from the 500 down to the 850. You need strong flow to be able to sustain these storms, to be able to tilt and rotate as they move. So upper level shear does not seem to be an issue, at least on the NAM. Going over to the Euro, now similar location, just like it is, go back to the NAM. You can see the location is pretty similar, but you can see how it's a lot flatter, and you don't have that compact upper level low that's really able to strengthen these winds at the 700 millibar level. And you can also see that they're a lot more easterly, or westerly I should say, west to east flow, whereas the NAM is a little bit more southwesterly to northeast. So definitely the more potent solution on the NAM, which would promote a lot more turning with the winds and height, which you need for that bulk shear. Alright, and moving down to the 850 millibar region. Now, this is a lot more important for your tornado types of setup, because you need that lower level rotation to be able to spin those storms on the lowest level to produce tornadoes. So as far as tornadoes, this is without a doubt the most important factor. And on the NAM, you can see a lot more compact low. It's the same story all the way through each level of the atmosphere, where you get your compact low centered over Oklahoma, and you get your flow that's able to intensify all the way through Louisiana and Mississippi, right where that slight risk area is outlined. So if we go over to the European, a lot more disorganized, still in the same place, but disorganized. You don't have that compact low, and you get some low level response, but it's a lot more muted compared to the NAM. So definitely the more potent solution for tornadoes is going to be your NAM solution. Now, even then, this is not that strong of a low-level jet. This is only 30 to 35 knots of flow. Now, for your more significant severe setups, you'd want a really tight wound surface flow here, and you would want just strong 50 to 60 knot flow right here all the way throughout the region, which would promote much more of a stronger tornado risk. But basically, the stronger your low-level winds are going to be, the stronger your tornado potential and significant tornado potential. But even with all that being said, this is going to be enough to promote the structure needed to produce severe weather as far as your supercells needed. So your bulk shear all the way through 500, through 700, through 850 millibars will promote structured thunderstorms that are going to be able to produce damaging wind, significant hail, and possibly tornadoes. So you can check that. You can check shear off of the list of the things we need for tornadoes and severe weather. All right, and what we're going to look at now is the concept of lift. Now, this is a new concept that I didn't go over in the last video, but there's a couple of different ways you can lift a thunderstorm parcel up to create thunderstorms. Now, or I should say a moist air parcel up to create thunderstorms. You can have all the moisture in the world, and if you don't have a lifting mechanism, you're just not going to have storm development. Now, there's a couple of ways you can get it. You can get through large-scale storm systems, which will come through the form of divergence aloft, which would promote height falls. I'll go over what height falls is and give you an example. Or you can have some sort of boundary promote and undercut the moist air and force it to rise, like a cold front, because warm air likes to rise. If a cold front comes through and cuts off the warm moist air, that moist air has nowhere to go but up, and that promotes large scale lift. Same thing with the warm front, the same type of a differential heating boundary. That's sort of what we were worried about the last event that I chased down in Mississippi, is right along the warm front, that colder air was able to uppercut right along the front. So, but as far as this, in the deep south, you're always going to have some sort of storm threat along the cold front. And if that's your only threat, you don't have to worry about tornadoes as much. But when you have large scale rising motion that come from height falls or divergence, then you got to worry about storms forming in the open warm sector, is what we call it, or out in front of the main cold front. And those would promote more of an significant severe weather type threat. So if storms, first thing we need to diagnose is, do we even have lift in the open warm sector that's going to be able to promote this? And I want you to pay attention to these lines, okay? These lines right here. These are your isotherms, okay? And what these represent are different levels of geopotential height, right? The higher your geopotential height is, that means the more of a ridge or higher pressure there is up under it. And the lower your geopotential height is going to be your lower pressure. You can see the different pressures right here, or your levels of geopotential height, I should say. So 579, 576, 570. As you get closer to the low, this number goes lower as you encounter lower pressure. So what we would want to see for a large-scale lift is what we call height falls, or as these areas of lower pressure interact with areas of higher pressure and force them down. So we call them height falls because the height is literally falling as the large-scale trough is entering the region. And what this does is lower pressure, the storms want to rise. I mean, through lower pressure, you get colder air aloft, and that allows storms or warm moist air in this higher pressure regime to be able to lift naturally without any sort of forcing mechanism. So to see if we have height falls, we're going to pick a random point right here in that slight risk area, right at the border. Looks like right around Natchez, Mississippi, right where my cursor is. And what we are looking for is for those height contours to fall over my cursor. All right, with my cursor right here at the Natchez area, right here in the corner of Mississippi and Louisiana, let's see if we get some height falls as we go throughout the evening of the severe event. Starting at 15Z, that's about 9 a.m. as we work toward noon. We get just a little bit of height falls. We do get just a little bit. Not a lot, but just a little bit. And we'd want to see usually a lot more. You get a lot more natural height falls up here closer to the surface low in that divergence regime. But there may be just enough to force some open warm sector development. It'll be really weak synoptic forcing. So the majority of the forcing will probably come from the cold front. As you can see, we've barely fallen at all. We haven't even got past one isotherm. So yeah, not a lot of synoptic lift, but there definitely will be along that cold front, and maybe as we get closer we can identify just a better area of synoptic lift as we get closer to the event. So lift is going to be questionable. I wouldn't exactly put a large scale ascent with this type of an event, but you do have stronger flow rounding the base, and maybe if that impedes the region a little bit quicker, you could see some, but we're still so far out in the event. I'm just going over what I see right now and telling it how it is. And we're going to move on over here to the moisture. Now, that is one check mark of this event. You can go ahead and check the box. If you walked outside at any point in the last couple of days here in the Deep South, you know it's just felt fantastic. It's been upper 60s, low 70s in the temperatures, and that's only going to continue as we go throughout the week. But as we look here at the NAM, this is going to be Friday at 6 p.m. Just strong moisture, upper 60s, 67, 68, even a little bit of 70s creeping in. And you can see this just broad bank of 70 dew points just sitting off of the coast. Moisture is not going to be an issue. Moisture was an issue with the last event. It is not going to be an issue probably with most of the events going forward, as we are in the time of year where those favorable moisture returns are more likely. So upper 60s dew points all throughout the warm sector. It's a big, nice, and wide area. So yeah, this is exactly what you'd want to see. It's a little bit more mute, just slightly on the European, but it's the same story. Upper 60s, low 70s, all the way through the coastal regions in southern Mississippi and Louisiana. So moisture is not an issue, and it's honestly kind of high. Good benchmark for moisture is anything below 65 is going to be low. Anything above 65 to 70 is going to be moderate, and anything above 70 is going to be high. So, and that just promotes stronger thunderstorm development. It helps with instability the more moisture you have. So, definitely a concerning signal just from the moisture side on both of the models going forward. Moving on to instability, and that's going to be your convective available potential energy. And if you weren't here for the last video, how you get instability is you got to have cold air in the upper levels. That's got to be running over warm, moist air in the lower levels. And that differential in heating causes the parcels in the lower levels to be unstable and causes them to rise more explosively, provided that you have some sort of lifting mechanism. So you can see how they all kind of work together. You know, if you have warm, moist air and you have cold air running over top of it, it gets unstable. When you have a lifting mechanism come through, it allows those unstable parcels to lift, and when they lift, they become thunderstorms. If you have the shear in throughout all levels of the environment, then those storms tend to rotate. And if you have the lower level shear, they might produce tornadoes. So that's how the system all works together. That's why you need each piece of the puzzle to really create a severe weather day or a significant severe weather day. A lot of the times there's pieces missing. Now, we have a warm, moist environment down here in the Deep South, but the reason why we're not seeing a lot of instability is, let me show you the temperature in the 500 millibars. The upper level air that we're looking at, this is a pretty cold upper level low, but it's not impeding a lot into the region that we're targeting. This is the region that we're targeting down here, and this colder air is well off to the back, and you can see as the closer you get to that upper level low, the more your instability is. So normally, if this was a regular trough ejection that was negatively tilted, this would be your exit region that you'd want to be focused on. And it's a lot closer to that colder air aloft, so naturally you get more instability. And we'll go over back and look at the instability again. You can see right up here, tucked up to the upper level low, is where you get your highest instability amounts. So up to 1600 joules right there along the line. But it's really not just a big widespread portion of instability. Now you do see some resemblance of it. I would dare to say if this trough was to go any more neutral to negatively tilted, we might see a lot more of a instability axis. But the thing about instability is you just really need the instability to be able to get the storms to form. As long as they formed and already have that rotating updraft, anything, as long as they have the real estate and moisture to work with, they'll be able to sustain for a while. So this tells me that there might be enough back here in the eastern Texas, Louisiana region, and they might be able to form and then work their way into southern Mississippi. So, possible check mark. I'd like to see a lot wider region here for instability, but I have a feeling as we get closer to the event, this will work itself out. What I've done for y'all is I've created a graphic with our North Mississippi Storm Chasers template as far as the sort of environment that we're looking at comparatively to other significant environments. So we have instability on the lower end, shear creeping into moderate, depending, that's to be determined. If we have stronger shear, this will move up. And as far as lift, moderate but not intense. We have that broad scale with that divergence if the NAM solution comes to fruition. But moisture is going to be closer into the high region. So this just shows you the different pieces of the puzzle. For a significant severe event, you'd want to see multiple of these into the high. Like, for example, if you have lower instability but shear is off the charts, that could compensate. But that's not what we have here. Everything is still slightly in the moderate region, with the only thing being really high is the moisture. So as of right now, we're not expecting just a complete significant, it's not going to be like last year with March 24th or March 31st. That's not the type of event we're looking at as of right now. But if things do become more concerning the closer we get to the event, I'll make another video, update it, and just keep y'all in the loop as far as the significant severe weather threat on Friday. So if you've made it this far in the video, I appreciate you giving me your time. If this is maintained or upgraded tomorrow, I might go ahead and do another video as we get some of those shorter range models in. You can really see, I'd like to do a video if we get close enough, probably like the day before, where you can really see what the convective allowing models are showing, because you'll be able to see them produce the storms with the environment that they are able to model. You can actually see the storms on the map. But if it gets that far, we'll definitely do that. But as of right now, just take it all with a grain of salt, as things possibly or definitely will change in the coming days. And thank y'all for sitting with me. So y'all have a great rest of y'all's day. Good night.